co-moderator, as we say as I say with affection in every podcast, America's favorite Girl Scout, Miss Harmony Smalls. So, introduce yourself.
I'm Harmony Smalls. I'm 13 years old and I'm heading to 8th grade after the summer.
All right. And over the last 4 years, Harmony has already told me she is going to MIT. So that's, so we're looking forward to that. So we'll continue on the rest of the table.
Yes. My name is Kecia O'Neill. I have a degree in architecture and my master's degree is in construction management. I was also a teacher here at Brooklyn Tech. I taught civil engineering and architecture. And I'm also one of Region 1's regional advisors for NSBE.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Billy James Dega, the co-founder of Strategic Engineering Experience STEAMvention, a startup to build K-12 students with education, employable skills, and entrepreneurship skills for the future in Africa. We currently in Ghana. Hopefully, we're going to start again in Rwanda and spread to East Africa. I've also served as my first position in the NSBE was a collegiate chapter president at the University of Cape Coast, Ghana, and then progressed to become the national programs chair and administrative secretary for NSBE Ghana. And as now, I have also served as West African Zone PCI chair for 2 years and also served as the deputy international chair external focus on African chapters. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabriel Kisson, and I'm the New York City Programs Manager for the National CARES Mentoring Movement. And our organization is founded, and our mission is to heal and transform the lives of Black children all over the country and help them find the fields and pathways that best align with their success and their futures. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Markell Lambright. I am the incoming NYC NSBE Professionals President. My background's engineering, and I've been in NSBE for a number of years that I won't tell you completely because that'll tell you how old I am. In terms of my professional background, I've been in broadcast media and engineering for the past 20 years. I currently work for Paramount, where I do a number of activities, whether it's designing broadcast facilities, launching fast channels, or even building podcast facilities. Quickly, like we're using that.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all here. My name is Ibrahim Jackson. I serve as the chairman of the board for a not-for-profit called Information Technology Senior Management Forum, in short, ITSMF. And our focus is about putting Black technology executives into C-suite positions. So that could be your chief information officer, chief technology officer, and the list goes on. And I'm grateful to be here. As I spoke with James, I said, these are great opportunities for us to share how you can move up in your career into really big jobs that, and I'm not knocking the industries, but it's not necessarily related to sports, media, and entertainment specifically on the forefront, but these are things that you can do in large enterprises.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michele Lezama. I am, my current role is president and CEO of NACME. It's a nonprofit that gives out scholarships for students like yourself to pursue a bachelor's degree in engineering or computer science. I'm a graduate of Brooklyn Tech. It's very proud graduate of Brooklyn Tech. From here, I went to Northeastern University for their co-op program, which allowed my family, who was very poor, couldn't afford college, the opportunity for me to work for a real salary to pay for undergrad. From there, I went to graduate school at Columbia University up the road, majoring in systems engineering, and I also got an MBA in accounting and finance. and had a great career because I went to Brooklyn Tech. Was able to work at very large engineering companies and then switched to media to be director of technology at HBO and CBS. So I'm excited to be here today and to talk about the things that we have planned. Thank you for coming out.
All right. So as all of you know, we're here for the Juneteenth STEM Day, and you can't have STEM in this era without AI. So to kick us off, I'm just going to read some quick stat. When you go to ChatGPT and up with your AI preference, it says according to the National Science Foundation (NSF) 2023 diversity in STEM, women, minorities, persons with disabilities report, African Americans were underrepresented in the STEM workforce in 2021, making up only 9% of it, compared to 12% of the adult population. This is an increase from 2011, when Black workers made up 7% of the STEM workforce. However, Black workers still earn lower wages than white or Asian workers in STEM fields, with a median salary of $54,734 in 2020 compared to $34,990 for non-STEM jobs. So this is a stat just showing how much the STEM gap and showing how low representation you had of our African American community here in the STEM fields. So 9% is very low. So with that, I'm going to direct the first question to Michele to talk about. Oh, sorry, I'm going to let. What I'll do is I'll let each person on the panel get their thoughts on that statistic, and really just to talk about your perspective on the STEM gap. Hearing that stat. So we'll start at the end and work this way toward Michele.
Okay. What I have to say about the percentage of Blacks and especially females, because I'm a female. One of the things that I think the stats is kind of low in engineering is because within our community, it is not expressed that engineering can span in different areas. And usually people in our community think that engineering is just civil engineering, mechanical, electrical, just the basics. But engineering can spread to biomedical. There's nanotechnology. There's so many different engineering fields, and all these different fields do involve other backgrounds, just not only engineering. So I think that our education to our kids need to be broadened a little bit wider, especially in math and physics. It needs to be broadened and made a little bit fun to grab the attention of our students.
Thank you. I think from my perspective, what the challenge we have back home is about the youth running away or shunning from studying mathematics and science because it's difficult. We're trying to bridge the gap by breaking down the science principles and the mathematics formulas for easy and absorption for the children, because they are already genius. They are intelligent. All that they need is a way to be able to understand the fundamentals and be able to provide us with future solutions. We are already aging. They are now growing, and they will be faced with the future or challenges, and they need the future solution to be able to stay in the future. Thank you.
And for me, since, I'm part of a mentoring organization, when I'm going into schools and I'm seeing a lot of kids similar to you guys sitting in the audience, you guys have interests in things that you want to pursue, but a lot of times you aren't exposed enough to what exists, what possibilities there are, and the opportunities and people to guide you through the process of getting there. And I think that's the biggest issue, just the exposure to and the being able to be represented in the STEM field or the STEM pathways. Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback on her comment about really exposure. You cannot take advantage of an opportunity that you are not aware exists. So it's very important for young people to be exposed to all varieties of technical and engineering careers and opportunities. Programs like this are key to increasing your exposure. I mean, I was even just made aware of drones and the ability for there's an industry of drone repair that I didn't even realize was as big as it was. You know, we talk a lot about drones, but who's actually repairing the broken drones? That's a huge opportunity that as young people right now, you can actually get involved with, and you can learn this skill in another 5 or 10 years. Who knows where that could lead you? So it's really about becoming aware and exposing yourself to things that you may not typically be used to.
Excellent. Yeah. So I echo all the sentiment that's there. So what I'll add to what's already been stated is be a student for life. Always be curious. Always look for something new. It's out there, and you have access to it either in your hand or in an event. I would say don't think about being as much a consumer as you can be a creator. And if you sort of take that mental model, if you take that way of thinking with you, I think that'll actually produce the outcomes that you're looking for. Whereas you can say, hey, you know what? Engineering is such a broad term. Where does this actually end? Me coming out of technology, you know, I taught myself, I'm dating myself, HTML, CGI, and Hurl. You know, this is back in the 90s. Do they even have that programming ability in there? Well, HTML does, but the rest of it. And it was just because I was curious. I didn't even know you got paid for that back then. You know, I was supposed to be an accountant. And so if you're curious, if you take the action, you can move forward. Don't allow society to dictate what particular bucket you need to be at. Just be curious, continue to learn, go out there.
I agree with all my fellow panelists. For all of the parents in the room and the students in the room, when I was sitting there in a seat as a Brooklyn Tech student, I remember thinking, there's no way I'm going into engineering after taking these classes at Brooklyn Tech. They were extremely difficult. They were boring. And I was like, I'm not going to be an engineer. And then I heard what he just said, how much money that you can make after 4 years of college, whereas becoming a doctor or a lawyer took all of this, took like 8 years to even come close to that salary amount. So I was like, okay, I'm going into engineering. Access is a big reason for that gap. Having access to the programs that allow you to be competitive, not only in college, but beyond college, having access to a program like this so that you can gain the tools to be able to apply competitively to the programs of your choice. Engineering is a foundation to so many careers, as been stated on the panel. Really think about how to leverage what you're learning at Brooklyn Tech. For parents out there, really push your children to consider a tech career. I know I wanted to be a math teacher because I loved math, and there's no way I wanted to do that science stuff. But the science came naturally because I loved math. So really think broader. And the reason for that gap is access to opportunities in underrepresented communities is so much smaller than our majority counterparts.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panel for your initial statements. We definitely appreciate all of that. So what we're going to move into now, in our next section, we're going to go into a few questions for each panelist. And then I'm going to open up the floor. So if any of you have any questions out there, I'm going to have, if you want to come up, you can come up right here next to me. I'll let you know when, and you can ask a question. Or if you want to stay in your seat, you can raise your hand. But right after we do this set of questions, I'll then open up to the floor to get questions for you all as well. So my first question is going to go to Michele, and it's going to be, how can the private sector contribute to closing the STEM gap?
So the organization I work for currently is called NACME, National Action Council for Minorities in Engineering. We are a nonprofit organization made up of corporations who do exactly that. We try to figure out where's the best place to pool funding to make sure that all students in the country, have access to engineering and computer science careers. And we do that through research to understand what programs work and what programs don't. And we're currently focusing on all of you who are in high school, whether it's in Brooklyn Tech or somewhere else. I hope that you're thinking about college and how you're going to apply and how you're going to apply for money so that you can make sure that you graduate with little to no debt. So that's the first thing, is that we're spending time talking about the tools that you need to apply to college effectively. When you think about going to college, look for universities that have bridge programs. Bridge programs is an effective program that's sponsored by companies nationwide, where you get access to preview classes before you start college. And that's critical. I remember being at Brooklyn Tech, and then I started at Northeastern in Boston. And I thought I was really smart because I'm coming from this magnet school. I thought I was all that. Back then it was all that in a bag of chips, to go what we used to say. And when I got into that physics class, it was like a class that was almost the size of this auditorium. And you barely saw the professor's face. They were turned around. They were writing. There was no engagement. I got a 3.8 GPA after my first term in college. Is because I dropped physics and didn't realize what I need to do, how to study, what topics were going to be thrown at me. And this is coming from Brooklyn Tech. And I was not in a bridge program. So I had friends who were invited to a bridge program who spent their summer right before college learning about what topics would be covered, at least in the first 2 months. And I can't tell you how important that is to get a running start. So I'm involved with companies who are really looking at that first question that we had, like, why are there gaps? And what can we do about the gaps? And how can we fund programs that work? So the benefit to you as parents, as well as students, is to really look at collegiate programs across the country. Just don't look in New York City and close to home. Look at what funding and what programs are out there. And then when you get admitted into an engineering or computer science program, make sure that you inquire about bridge programs. How can you get access to the programs that's going to make sure that you graduate on time with little to no debt? That's my answer.
Thank you. Yes, powerful answer. Next, I'm going to go to Ibrahim Jackson, ITSMF. I'm going to ask, which we like a continuation question on that. What partnerships are essential for closing this debt gap?
Yes, NSBE is obviously one. NACME is another, because you do need to have financial support. And then, is it okay to talk about BDPA as well? Okay, so there are other organizations as well. So if you look at BDPA, Black Data Processing Associates, there's also Caliber, and several other. Am I not speaking loud enough? Okay, sorry about that. That's the first time I've ever heard that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so just to repeat, so obviously NSBE is one, NACME for financial support as well, and other resources to work with organizations like BDPA, Black Data Processing Associates, as well as Caliber. These are all great organizations that can help you gain access to programs, give you exposure to people who are in different fields that have to do with science, technology, engineering, and math. And then find your sweet spot. One point that I will make is don't feel as though it's a life sentence when you do make a career choice. In today's environment, we're totally different than the 1920s when the Ford organization was looking to just have a factory of people who worked for 40 years in the same job, doing the same things, etc. Look, where technology has gone today, and we do a bit of staffing, people are changing careers every 18 months to 3 years. And so know that you can always pivot. We are not trees. We all stand in one spot and just grow in the one spot. We can move into different directions. So maybe in this era, you're excited about technology. Somewhere else you'll be excited about math. Somewhere else you may be excited about science. Just know that you do have that flexibility. So,
All right, thank you, Ibrahim, for that comment. I myself have switched several careers several times. That's a great thing about having a STEM background. It fits with so many different companies and industries. So next, we're going to go to Markell Lambright, and we're going to ask, what role does community engagement play in closing the STEM gap?
Well, community engagement is essential in closing that STEM gap because it provides two things. One is equity or inclusion, and the other is access. Now, how does it do that? Well, one way it does that is, as discussed earlier, or just stated by Michele and Ibrahim, is building and fostering partnerships. All right. You take schools such as this one, local businesses, nonprofit organizations like NSBE, even local government agencies. All of these entities can partner together to foster opportunities for students like yourself, or if you're in college, to get introduced to STEM fields, STEM careers. I mean, the partnership between Brooklyn Tech and, let's say, maybe NYU Tandon University, right, where they have high school students come onto college campuses and perhaps get introduced to advanced courses of science and mathematics. Partnerships like that are very important in preparing students like yourself to enter a science field or engineering field or career. So that's one way. Another way is by providing real world context, giving students like yourselves, or if you're in college, opportunity to work in the industry, whether it's be an internship or on a project with, a local company that has a engineering or STEM related field. That real world experience can help you determine where you want to land in the world of STEM. I mean, this program is the perfect example of that, right? Like today, students are getting introduced to coding. If you didn't know anything about cybersecurity, software development, computer science, you can get introduced to it here today. You can decide if this is something that you want to get into or you want to learn more about. So these are just a couple of ways that community is very important in terms of closing STEM.
Thank you, Markell. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Billy James and ask Billy James, what are the global implications of closing the STEM gap?
Thank you. The global implication of closing the STEM gap is getting the opportunity to increase innovations and technical advancements. Now, based on this, we are looking at what is the significant importance to closing the STEM gap in Africa. And it is very important for us because we have so much natural resources that we want to turn into finished goods. And this, we believe, will help us to accelerate economic growth and industrialization. It will also enhance food security through agriculture technology. Now, the question is, how are we going to make sure we achieve these set goals? How are we trying to make sure the finished goods really impact our economy or our community positively, to be able to also provide some solution to the world? So UNESCO talks so much about how important it is to be able to have STEM professionals on the African continent. The reason is that it enhances capacity to address regional and global challenges. So as much as we are trying to address challenges on the African continent, we end up contributing to addressing global challenges. Now, James was in Kenya just this past few days, and one of the devastating effects of climate change, flooding, occurred right in Nairobi. Now, do we have the experts to be able to help to respond effectively before, during, and then after such a crisis. So we need to be able to build. Now, the last question is, whose responsibility is to address or close this gap? And we'll be able to provide solutions on the African continent that impact globally. Now, my fellow panelists have talked about access to greater opportunities or exposure in education, which is very true. Now, we are looking at mentorship and role model. Then a key element is about hands-on. We hardly have an opportunity to have a lot of hands-on. We do a lot of theory. So we know in theory this will work, but practically we've not tested our ideas. And we want to also use that as an opportunity to express our concern, to collaborate and partner with other organizations, including NSBE, including multinational companies like HP, to be able to address the need to increase hands-on engagement. We also looking at STEM literacy and awareness. Awareness is one key factor that will help us to be able to close the gap, the STEM gap, which will also help the world to be a better place for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you. And for our next question, I'll go to Kecia at ODL. How can early education initiatives be tailored to close the STEM gap?
Well, okay. That's a good question. Excuse me. Pertaining to that question, how we can close the gap educationally, I'm going to give you an example of how, I teach my kids to broaden their horizon in the STEM field with education. As I told you before, I was a teacher here at Brooklyn Tech. I retired 2 years ago from this school. So one of the things that people didn't know while I was here at Brooklyn Tech was that I was also the coordinator of student activity. I'm not sure if the rest of you in the audience know what that is. Basically, I stay with a class for 4 years when they come into the school. So as an example, my last class was the class of 2022. So when they came in, they stayed with me from freshman year all the way up to senior year. And I took care of everything from their student activities, from their volunteer hours, their leadership classes, their SGO, student government, for those who don't know what SGO is, and so on. So with that being said, one of the things that I thought about when I was a COSA was how could I bring that to the NSBE group, which is the National Society of Black Engineers. So one of the things that I did see in the educational part that was lacking was that our kids didn't have the opportunity of learning leadership skills. The other part was, like, as many people on this panel stated, that they didn't have the opportunities to reach out to the engineering group, have the different types of engineering groups, the different colleges and so on, at their hands. So one of the things that I did bring to the NSBE chapter here to make them very efficient, they are like one of the best chapters in NSBE. I'm sorry, I have to say, I'm so sorry. And Region 1 is the best too. So anyway, you know what? That's just a joke with the NSBE people. That's out here. But getting back to the leadership part. So one of the things that I found out teaching them the leadership skills and stuff was there was opportunities. Like, for instance, on SGO, the president and the SGO council and stuff, they had opportunities to go to different conferences and they got a chance to see other people within their group, and they had a bond and they got closer and they learned more. One of the things that I found was that when I brought NSBE to the chapter here, and that's just not being local. It opened their horizon to see the different colleges within Region 1. And one of the reasons that I did that is because in Region 1, you have MIT, you have Princeton, we have like the biggest colleges, some of the biggest Ivy League colleges that the Black kids in the community don't usually get to see. So that opened their horizon there. So they had a chance to meet the collegiates in NSBE and had an opportunity to sit down and talk to them. So one of the other things they had an opportunity to see was also the educational part, to get into some of the engineering classes and what they need to take care of. One of the things that you don't realize when you're in school is that you already have these opportunities at hand. It's just that you don't never take the opportunity at times. I shouldn't say never, but you don't take the opportunity to join these other groups, which will also help you to broaden your horizon within the areas that you want to go into. So it's also, these things are at your school. Like one of the things also is that you have CTE. They call my particular class here at Berkeley Tech, I taught civil engineering and architecture. That is called career technology and engineering. Every school, high school, I should say, has CTE. CTE will broaden your horizon in the technical and the engineering areas. They also give internships after school. Some of the internships do pay. So one of the things that you need to do is ask questions at your school. And usually those things are never asked at your school because you don't know they are there for you. They are hidden, unfortunately. You have to go to your guidance counselors and talk to your guidance counselor about these areas because they are there for you. Now, some schools don't. I'm so sorry. But then there are other organizations that are out there, like NACME. Also, there's SWE. There's also SHEP. And just in case you don't know what SWE is, the Society of Women in Engineering. If you don't know what SHEP is, it's the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. There are so many other organizations out there that if you do your research, you'll be able to find out that they will be able to help you to get to where you want to go to. You don't even have to just look at the engineering organizations. There are other organizations within the fine arts dealing with just art, STEAM. Everybody know what STEAM is, right? Which is the art in other areas that don't have just only strictly engineering. So basically what I'm trying to say is that in education, you have to ask questions. There is no harm in asking questions. I tell my kids this all the time. This is the sole purpose of the teacher being there in the classroom, is how you ask the question. You have to ask questions. You have to reach out and be a little bit more proactive if you want to learn a little bit more in the education. I know it's not right, but it is there for you and you need to ask questions. I hope that was good. Fuzzy?
Oh, yeah, it's okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So next, our co-moderator here, she's going to ask a couple questions. And so I'll give the floor over to her.
Sorry. For Gabby Kisson, what role do mentorship programs play in encouraging STEM education?
Thank you so much. So, coming from an organization that deals with a mentorship program and, we partner with different schools, but just like Michele mentioned, sometimes the schools don't have the opportunities that you guys may be looking for as students. You might not be exposed to certain things that you would like to be exposed to, or you might not know it exists. And so even beyond asking the questions to see if the school has it, you also can partner with different organizations. The school can partner with organizations and bring in mentorship programs that help you guys to reach those pathways and those goals that you might have for yourself. So if you're interested in STEM and it's not something that, you're not going to Brooklyn Tech or you're not going to a school that provides that kind of opportunity. I went to a tech high school also, but in New Jersey. And I didn't take full advantage of what they were offering. A lot of my friends did, and they're working for bigger companies and doing a lot of creative work in the STEM field. And I think I could have had more opportunities if I had followed through or had the mentorship or had connections or opportunities that were presented by different maybe mentorship programs or people who were filling in that capacity like a mentor who can kind of guide me through what I should have been doing versus what I did do. And not to say that that's a downfall either, because, like James mentioned and like some of the other panelists mentioned, you're going to go through different career changes as time goes on. And, you might start in one field and then find a new interest and want to pursue that further. And whatever it is that you're exposed to when you're young, even starting at 2 and 3 and 4, I have a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old, and their curiosity with just like things that you wouldn't think are going to spark something later actually do. Like having my 2-year-old run around and want to be interested in like the way that we have 2 cats. So like how their water system works, their little water fountain. He's playing with it. He's like taking the pieces apart. Like that's engineering when you really break it down, when you really think about it. And that's sparking right now at his really, really young age. He's just 2. But what I'm saying is mentorship programs can fill in those gaps where they might exist. So if your school isn't offering it, you don't have a math teacher dad at home, or you don't have someone who's in a STEM field or even any other field that you might be interested in, you can find those outlets and you could find those people through mentorship programs and through other means. So definitely ask questions and utilize those things to your advantage. It's about what you're going to create for your life.
As a question that like anyone can answer, what are the potential roles of AI and machine learning in closing the STEM gap?
Oh, my favorite. Okay, let me just piggyback quickly. I don't know how I didn't mention ITSMF as one of the organizations, and we offer a scholarship. So everyone in here, make sure you apply for the scholarship from ITSMF. Now, the role of AI in helping to close the STEM gap. There's been no better time in history to gravitate toward technology, specifically generative AI in this space. I have 3 children, 26, 6, soon to be 16, 13, and I've made it a requirement that they're on some generative AI platform of choice at least an hour per day, because this is what's shaping the history. Last night, I hosted a dinner with executives from really large companies who are saying this is going to create a massive divide between communities. Embrace generative AI, ask it questions, but most important, as you're learning to work with AI, focus on you knowing how to do critical thinking, breaking down problems, saying this is the problem, and keep asking why, what, how, where, etc., and breaking down the questions, and then start exploring prompt engineering and how that can actually help to stimulate even more ideas and building more criteria for the things that you have generative AI work on. I'm sharing this here because I really want to see everyone succeed. Don't just put in a Google search into your AI prompt. Put in a solid prompt. But also, as we work with AI, we begin to understand and know what AI outputs are coming back to us. So a trick that I use when doing a prompt, I have what's called a ban list. And I say, yeah, give me your output, but don't use these words. I don't want to hear tapestry. I don't want to hear delve. I don't want to hear a mosaic, because what the AI will begin to do is generate the same sort of words over and over again, and it doesn't sound like you. Remember, AI is there to help you. So it's augmenting the human experience, meaning that it's partnering with you. I like to use the term cobot because it sounds better than, robot assisted. Just make sure that whatever you're doing today, allocate time in your schedule to play with these tools. And remember, experiment and learn. It's all about experimentation. Don't feel like it has to be right on the first go.
I want to piggyback off of what he just stated. With the AI, there was a student that had, and the reason why I want to touch on this because it was a really basic problem. She was in NSBE, and she basically had a friend that passed away in a hit and run. So in her head, she saw that the numbers were going up on students getting hit by cars, and there was fatality with hit and runs. And so in her head, she wanted to stop this in New York. I don't know if half of you realize that the speed limit in New York now is 20. Have people noticed that it went down to 20? In most neighborhoods, you can't drive over 20. That's because of Allison's idea of stopping the speed limit of students getting hit. So what she went to the mayor, not this particular mayor, but the other mayor, and she put in a complaint, and a division came up called Vision Zero, and that came from her. From that, then she decided, why don't I make an app that shows students within New York where traffic is, what is the speed limit within a traffic zone. So she did that, and she decided to make her own app. And this is why I'm bringing that up, because it was just a simple problem that she had where a friend passed away from a hit and run. And she thought of, what can I do to make a change in my neighborhood? And so basically, like it was stated, she came up with the problem, and then she decided to find out what the solution was. And then from there, then she came up with the app. From that app, she competed in Samsung and won $100,000 for her app.
Oh, nice.
And I actually just have one question for the audience. By show of hands, how many people or students in here, actually everyone, is familiar or know what ChatGPT 4.0 is? By show of hands. Okay, that's good. Like, as iterated before, this is the greatest opportunity, a point in time for all of you to become aware and learn more about AI, generative AI. It is literally changing the world as we know it. And there is no greater time for you to become aware, learn about it, use it to help you learn how to solve problems. Use it to help you learn how to get more involved into STEM areas. This is the wake-up call. This is the shout. This is that moment that you need to be aware of. So please take that information and utilize it.
And we're gonna start wrapping up. But before we wrap up, as Harmony asks her last question, if there are any audience questions, if anyone is comfortable with coming up right here next to me, you can ask. I'll give you a mic to ask your question. If anyone has questions, so just start making your way up right next to me. So yeah, fine. Start making your way up next to me, and that way you can ask your question. Harmony's gonna ask her last question to the panel, and then we'll try to take at least 2 to 3 questions from the audience.
As my last question, how can we sustain the momentum of STEM initiatives over the long term? It's for anyone.
Let me take this. Sustaining the momentum for STEM initiatives for us in Africa is very important, and it's crucial for our well-being, our living, because without it, we will end up rely on external factors or external support, which won't come in at a time that we need it. Let me give you a typical example. 2014, we had Ebola on the African continent. It started from Liberia to Sierra Leone, and then a few countries cut it out. Then the world started breaking away from us, and the disease kept spreading. It was a new thing on the continent, and no one at that time had a knowledge about it. And those a U.S. citizen who was working on the continent brought it to the States. And that was when the world woke up and then started finding solution to Ebola. And then ended up providing a medicine, or let's say a vaccine for it. We stopped many of our activities of grouping because we are used to coming together in large venues for events, family gatherings. So it started shutting down those gatherings and never give us an opportunity. Now, another one that happened was the pandemic. Coronavirus totally cut us off, and we had no knowledge also in COVID-19. And this is becoming a breaking ground for Africans to start vetting and increasing the momentum on building STEM professionals who can provide ready solution as and when it is needed. And then also transforming most of our natural resources into finished good, so as that the over-reliance on external donors or partners will also be reduced, and then also give growth to our economy. Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you. And thank you for providing additional clarity. So, huge concern right now in the industry. And I believe that is where public policy is eventually going to have to kick in, because, I know this happened with Drake. It happened with several other artists that are in industry and the music industry. And I know a lot of actors are saying the same thing. Like, now AI is attempting to write a script. So if I say, I'm generative AI, act as though you're Spike Lee, review all of the movies that Spike Lee has created. Now create a new one that's an action movie, and it plays out. That's not really fair to a director like Spike Lee, or an actor or an actor and actress that may end up becoming an avatar in some of these platforms. I really do believe that's where policy is going to kick in. The flip side to that is it's about timing. I know the in Europe and the UK, they've already started pushing policy for AI. In the United States, we operate quite differently, because we like to begin forming and then storming in with some of the policy, and we're still trying to figure out what this baby is looking to become. So it's going to take some time before we can actually put the appropriate guardrails around it. But I do agree with you, yes, that if you can put some structure to governance in place, it could potentially reduce some of the anxiety.
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit. My organization, beyond scholarships, we provide educational experiences during the summer. So when all of you go to college, we don't want you to go back home and work in retail, or what you could do now in high school. We want you to elevate your experiences, paid experiences during the summer. Long story short, we sponsor boot camps, and one of the boot camps we do is on artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we're really focusing on making sure that that Blacks and Hispanics in particular have a role in AI and machine learning, so that we can kind of control the next generation of what's happening. Because your question is critical. We don't have the answer, because there needs to be a lot of work around policy, as well as what we teach at NACME is ethics in AI. Like, how do we create a structure such that, a legal structure such that you can't do what exactly the example of your question. And the honest answer is that the country is not there yet. I'm happy to see what's happening abroad, but there's a lot of work to be done. And we want to make sure that you as students are a part of that solution, because there's a complete solution space that is being developed right now. Thank you for that great question.
Yes, thank you for that great question. And also, we can't take more students, but for these 3 students that are asking questions came up, all of my shipment didn't make it today, but next week I will be shipping you a HP gaming set. So it'll be a backpack, headset, gaming keyboard, gaming mouse, gaming pad, and so you'll be getting that next week. Thank you for your question.
What fields in STEM would be good for music production? Because I like music. I like chords on pianos. I have the urge. Every single urge in me is tell me go to play something. But what kind of fields in the STEM industry would also help with the music industry? Because I'm very interested in that.
So being that I've worked in production for quite some time, one of the first roles that popped in my head when he said sound and engineering at STEM is sound design. When you watch movies and there are certain scenes, there are a group of individuals that sit down and come up with ways to actually engineer a piece of audio so that it matches the desired effect the director of that film wants you to see. For example, if you watch a film that has some violence in it, which you probably should be watching, but let's say it has some violence, and maybe there's a bone that's breaking. It's not an actual real human bone, maybe some producers that actually do record that, but you may actually be hearing the sound of a watermelon being broken open. Okay. When you're watching bullets, all right, there's different, or the gunshots, there's someone who's actually recording the sound of how that bullet leaves the gun and in a variety of situations. So you get different effects based on what you're seeing on the screen. So sound design is a huge field. Sound designers get paid very well, and it does require, advanced knowledge of the audio spectrum and all varieties and levels of sound engineering.
Okay. I'm not sure if you're also talking about this part of production, but one year we had a national convention for NSBE. I believe it was in Pittsburgh, and we had a famous DJ. And the DJ was talking about how the systems now that they are using is very technical. And one of the things that he was talking about, which I did see in effect with another DJ, DJ Cass, I believe is his name, where he comes in and he just mix music like at the Barclays Center, but his whole background is automated to his music. And that's what this DJ was talking about, was the fact that now as a DJ, his whole production now has changed totally due to technology. And to keep the audience, interested, he now has to have another team to come in with the electronics, with the cameras, with all the lighting and everything, even the sound. So his whole production now is a whole different team of different type of engineers. So that is an area that you can look into, because now the DJs are in a whole different total field than they were in before.
Can I just add one? I mean, I just recently got introduced to Tara Pelly, right? Did I mention his name or? Tara Perry, right? Yes. His stage production are full of technology. I mean, from the backdrop to the sound, the cameras, every single thing is just technology. So if you want an example, just go look for his stage plays. You will love it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Cameron, for that great question.
Hi, my name is Juan Colon. I will be studying finance at the Ohio State University. And my question is, what was the point in your life when you realized you wanted to get into STEM?
Yes. So I have a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering from Northeastern and a systems engineering degree from Columbia. When I went to high school here at Brooklyn Tech, I left here not wanting to be in STEM because it was so hard for me. And my mother forced me to go into the major because we were poor. And she's like, you got to get out of our apartment. And the ability to make money. The first question for this panel, the salaries, the STEM salaries compared to other salaries was so different. And she was like, you're going to be an engineer. And then once I got on campus and got involved with the NSBE chapter, got involved, and you'll see this at Ohio State. My daughter went there early on. There's so many different activities and so many access points for you to be able to do a deep dive to kind of understand whether finance is the right opportunity for you. Maybe you want to consider financial engineering, which is closely related to finance. In graduate school, I got both a master's degree in engineering and an MBA in accounting and finance. So having exposure to engineering at this high school was kind of the first inkling, but I was looking at it as it's too hard. Being forced into it and then starting it and realizing that I had the skills, that I didn't have to have that imposter syndrome. So all of you in here, you can do engineering if you want to. You can combine other interests, whether it's finance for this student that's asking a question, whether it's art and STEAM. I was director of technology at HBO, so the answers that you heard about combining engineering into production is also true. So sometimes you stumble onto things, right? So the goal, you heard this earlier about being intellectually curious, right? And in today's world, you're going to change careers. You're going to change majors. You're going to do multiple majors. There's a key term right now called interdisciplinary. A lot of programs, particularly at Ohio State, because there's so many majors, it's one of the largest schools in this country, you're going to be able to major in finance and minor in something else. So not knowing that you want to do STEM at this stage is okay. But at least thinking about it, at least exploring what the possibilities are, is something that I heavily encourage. So the answer to your question was I stumbled into it, being forced to major in it, but then really doing a deep dive once I got it on the college campus. And I encourage you to do the same.
Okay, so let me just add a little to it. So my interest started at a very early stage. I used to watch American movies a lot. So kind of like the modernized buildings, roads that were shown in the movies, at our part of the world. So like, whose job is to build those things? And I kept asking people, like, oh, use engineers. And I said, who are they? But I don't know who engineers are. Then my second sport was watching Cartoon Network. And Destel was my favorite cartoon. The gentleman who built his laboratory in his father's book, I don't know whether it was in the basement, but it was just about playing with different science principles while DV was just jumping around, destroying things. But the curiosity of Destel, just awakened my spirit. Look, I could build something in my house and keep trying to keep destroying, rebuilding, and finding out how things work so that I can be able to build things. So that was when. But a friend of mine moved from finance to engineering when he worked at a gold mining company. He was providing financial assistance to the different department of the engineering company. And at a point, he just said, no, I need to get an engineering degree to be able to understand how to support the different departments based on purchasing, procurement, and then be able to help the company to deliver on client deadlines. Thank you.
And I go really fast. My interests began in junior high school. I had an art teacher. I started out in art. And so basically that art teacher was teaching us three-dimensional drawing. And then from three-dimensional drawing, my interest started peaking in the development of designing buildings. And then that's how I started getting into architecture. So in high school, I went to LaGuardia. And at the time, LaGuardia had architecture. So I'm telling you my age because they don't have it anymore. So from architecture in high school, then it led into college where I took architecture for my bachelor's. And then from there, it just increased into civil engineering. So I started in art, just basic art, and then it just led into engineering.
I'll try to be quick. When I was in high school, about the age of some of you all, I was working as an electronics technician. At that age, I had got really good at fixing any and everything. Anything electrical, I could fix it. I got so good at it that it became boring to me. And I realized, you know what? I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. What else could I do? So I decided, you know what? If I can fix it, but I can't design it. Like, who actually made this thing that I'm fixing? So I did some research and I realized that, hey, maybe I should study engineering. It's one thing to fix it, but if I could design it, that would be the next level. That'd really be cool. So I went next door to the college, found a gentleman who was in this organization called NSBE. He introduced me to what NSBE is. He helped me start a NSBE junior chapter in my high school. I went to college and studied and enrolled in electrical engineering, and the rest is history.
All right. Thank you once again. Really great question. And for me, I started with a Commodore VIC-20. I don't know if everybody, that's before all of you, all the students know, it's Commodore VIC-20. I tried to, it came with a joystick. I try to jam it back in and bent the pin. And then I use a metal fork to try to bend the pin back into place, shorted it out. And then another place that doesn't exist anymore, Radio Shack, we had to get the nice big clear fuse. They had big fuses on the inside. And we had to go to Radio Shack and get another fuse to replace it. So I don't know if my brother is here. He told me he was coming, but he's a computer science major, and he went and figured out how to fix it. And from there, it was just computer engineer was just a natural thing for me after that. So it was that became clear. That and a different world later on helped me define that. So thanks again for your question. What was your name again? Juan. Thank you, Juan. And Juan will probably be a college DJ as well. I was like, voice deep. Oh my God. So thank you everyone once again for all your great questions. Thank you for our esteemed panel. Thank you, panel. Let's give a round of applause to all of our great panel members. And once again, I'm honored that we're here in this place. You know, I helped co-found this NSBE Junior chapter 30 years ago when I was the co-founder and vice president, and glad to see all of you here now as you get ready to start your college path. So at this point, what we're going to do next is we're going to change the agenda a little bit. You're going to have about 45 minutes for lunch, and then we'll go into the next set of workshops. And then next set of workshops, the middle school will be back here in the auditorium, and we'll have the drone cadets, and they'll be doing demonstrations of drones and have you fly some drones in the auditorium. So with that, I want to say thank you and enjoy your lunch. Thank you.